Hi, friends. It's so nice to see you gathered here today. It's me, Christiana Gaudet. We are live on my YouTube channel for a really interesting workshop. This is a 90-minute workshop. If you happen to be watching in archive, that's fine. Just do this right along with us, and we are going to have some fun. Let me say hi to some folks here. Leisha, glad to see you. Julianne, glad you're here. JM, SK. There are not downloads for this class, nope. Karen Winkle rolled out of bed on the West Coast. Glad you're here. Marin K. Taro from Scotland, glad you're here. Marcos Herring, that's actually Anna, don't let her fool you. Dory, happy to see you. Dave, glad you're here. Sarah, nice to see you. Morgan, glad you're here. Melanie, happy to see you. Jessica, glad you're here. TK, we haven't seen you in a million years. So happy to see you. Dina, glad you're here. Triskel Studio. This one's on you, my friend Christine. Christine Petta. So she is part of the reason we are doing this class. So if you don't like it, you can just blame her, right? This class is courtesy of a few people. It was, first of all, Christine's idea that we study a Tarot Grand Tableau. And I was like, huh? What's that? And then Brenda Elizabeth sends me this present, which is a layout cloth for, guess what? A Tarot Grand Tableau. And so then she and I got together on Zoom and we played with it. We thought it was pretty cool. So then we played with it here in one of our tarot meetups. You may know we do like 3 tarot meetups a month right here on this YouTube channel. And we had so much fun with that. We thought, hey, this will be a whole class. And so here it is. So that's how this class came to be. All right. So if you have not already done so, separate out your Major Arcana. We will only be working with the Major Arcana today. Lisa McCord, nice to see you. Right, SK is Shelley. Happy you're here. Barbara O'Brien is here. Glad you're here. Adriana from Brazil. Glad you're here. Betty Flesher, so nice to see you. Tammy, who is here with Fast Horse. Nice to see you. Cheryl Jefferson, nice to see you. Okay, so this is, okay, first of all, full on disclaimer here. This is using a very well-respected and well-utilized Lenormand technique with tarot. This is kind of a new idea. There is no right or wrong way to do it. Some of you may already have some practices in this area. I have a couple of reasons for doing it. Number one is because we had so much fun in that tarot meetup playing with this, and everyone was like, this should be a class, this should be a class. Well, you should know by now that as soon as you start saying that in the meetups, guess what? It's going to be a class. So here we are. But I thought that this would be a really interesting opportunity to teach some things about tarot. Hey, Mallory, nice to see you. So, full disclosure, while I do have some Lenormand decks, I've taken a few classes. Hey, Chris-Ann, glad you're here. I am not a Lenormand reader. I play with it from time to time. I get excited about it. And then it always sort of falls to the wayside. Now, at some point, you know, as I say, I've got these beautiful decks. I love them. I'm making sure that at StarCon, we will have at least one Lenormand class. I think it's a really important part of the cartomancy community. Hey, Karen made it. Very good. Glad you're here. So I am not in any way wanting to disrespect Lenormand or its practice. I just want you to understand that I am not a teacher or a practitioner of Lenormand. That is not where my expertise lies. And so there are many people here in this room who are. and who have that expertise. And so I do not want in any way to suggest that I do when I don't. Hey, Gail, nice to see you. The thing that I've found as Lenormand has sort of come into popularity in the tarot community is that it is very, very different from tarot. Someone explained it to me once that tarot is an allegory and Lenormand is literal. And one of the things I love about tarot is the fact that it's allegorical, that it is like you can go into it and see all kinds of things. I like its lack of literalism. And so it is very hard for me to switch from one to the other. Other people seem to have an easier time. I just always want to kind of dig in. So what I would like to happen in this class is we're going to use this Lenormand technique, this technique that we borrow from the robust and important Lenormand tradition, but we're going to use it in the most tarot-y way possible. And that is for two reasons. Number one, I can't really seem to do anything else. I am a tarot teacher, that's how it is. Number two, what I discovered in playing with this is a great way to dig into tarot. From this class, you will develop a better understanding of the major arcana. From this class, you will discover new ways to do a general reading and general reading techniques. From this class, you will learn more about card combinations, how the cards work together. So those are my goals. Now, typically, if you're going to do a grand tableau in Lenormand, you would have a specific question, and you may have specific cards activated to mean certain things within that question. I am less interested in doing that for this class with tarot. I want us to go in as a general reading without a specific question. I want us to use, this is like the power. Oh, Dave, would it be fair to say that tarot is more right-brained and Lenormand is more left-brained? I would say that, but I would love someone here who does both, with great fluency to answer that question. What do you think? Is that true? Marion says it's a good technique to use if you have a majors only deck. Absolutely. And honestly, any tarot deck can become a majors only deck if you separate out the majors, which if you have not already done, separate out your majors. We're just working with the majors today. And let's say hi to Cynthia. I'm so glad you've joined us today. So we did a little something in our last tarot meetup about letting cards ask a question, how a tarot card asks a question. And we're going to play with that here too. So let's talk about the format of the Grand Tableau. In Lenormand, a Petit Lenormand deck has 36 cards. And the Grand Tableau utilizes all of them by arranging them in a grid, and each position is considered a house. Now, what is a house? In astrology, we know that a house is a department of life. So in the Lenormand Grand Tableau, the houses are denoted by the Lenormand cards themselves. So the Lenormand cards are numbered 1 through 36. And so the first house would be the house of the first card of the Lenormand deck, which I believe is the Rider. Is that right? Am I right about that? As I say, I'm a complete newbie here. But that's how it goes. And just to see what's going on in the comments, Christine says, I'm a newbie in tarot, but to Dave's comment that it would be just like that. Jake, who is really Robin, is here. Nice to see you. Joanne is here. Nice to see you. Okay, so In the Major Arcana Grand Tableau, there will be 22 houses. The houses in order will be denoted by the Major Arcana in order. And the way it will be laid out, good morning, Claire, it's good to see you. The way it will be laid out is in 4 rows. The first row will have only one card, the Fool, right in the middle, thusly. Then you will have 3 rows, 1 through 7, 8 through 14, 15 through 21. Those will be the houses. So the first card out in a row by itself will be the house of the Fool. The top row will have the house of the Magician, the house of the High Priestess, the house of the Empress, the house of the Emperor, and so on in that row. So the houses of the Magician through the Chariot in the first row. In the second row, the houses of Strength through Temperance. And in the final row, the houses of the Devil through the World. So technically 4 rows because the Fool is its own row, but 3 full rows with the Fool right on top. That is the layout. Now, if you have more than one deck, you could lay out your spread by putting the cards in order, by putting the Fool up top and then putting cards 1 through 7 in that first full row, 8 through 14, right? And then having another deck where you've separated out the majors, shuffle them, and lay them on top. Or you could have a cloth or a piece of paper that does this. Or you could just remember that the first card out in the middle is the House of the Fool. And you could sort of count over and remember the houses as you lay out the cards. Now, everyone with me so far? Christine uses 2 Lenormand decks to do the Grand Tableau that way. Very good, so that makes sense. Okay. So, general readings. This is a perfect spread for a general reading. And Christine says she uses a normal size deck and a mini deck. Right, normal size to denote the spread, mini deck to put the cards on top. And then you have a real visual. I was thinking if I had space, I would do the same, denoting the spaces with these and then doing the readings with these. I don't have the space to do that right here, but one could, right? Dory says, I love both tarot and Lenormand. So cool, I never thought of this. I love it. Very good. Very good. Okay. So, the general reading. The general reading, this is a reading that you do without a question in mind, and you may have questions, but you're not starting with one specific question. We look to the general reading to show us a whole picture of what's going on. And that is the bane of some tarot readers who really like to have the context of the question to help with their interpretation. Now, Dave says, I've done a horoscope tarot spread where the 12 positions are the 12 houses. Yes, and that is a very good comprehensive spread, a very good spread for a general reading. This is similar. Now, so I'd like you to go in without a question, but recognize that many questions will be asked and answered in this process. The one Lenormand technique that I think might be interesting, because this is also a tarot technique, is to choose one card here to represent you. So my question is, of the 22 cards, which card represents you today? Will it be the card that is associated with your sun sign? I'm a Scorpio. For me, that would be death. Would it be a card that you just identify with a great deal, a card that you like? I, in this context, will always use strength. I am strength because I am an 8. So it's my birth number card. Strength is my birth number card, and it's also the card of my rising sign, Leo. So for me, I always choose strength. So for our first order of business, I'm going to ask you to choose, just for today, one of the major arcana cards that will represent you, your major arcana significator. Go ahead and let us know what it is and why you chose it. Now, the next thing to think about is when we look at a card as denoting a house. Right, TK is the Hierophant, 5 is his birth number, and so we know that TK is always the Hierophant, right? So then the next question is to recognize that the house positions are denoted by the cards. So what is the house of the Fool? What is the house of the Magician? And you can see that this really helps us understand these cards better. Okay, JM is using the Empress as the birth card. Morgan uses the Empress for the creativity. Circle of Stones Tarot, my birth card is Judgment. Cynthia, I use the High Priestess because I am intuitive. Karen, the Hermit, is my birth number. So you can see there's a lot of different ways we might choose it. For Mallory, my birth card is the Hierophant. Melanie, Chariot, the contractors are due today and it's been a long wait. Christine, do you need to pick as random card or our birth date? I would not do it randomly. It could be your birth card. It could be your astrology card. It could be the card that you feel speaks to you as you for whatever reason. But don't choose it randomly. Choose it because it calls to you. Okay. And Julianne, I'm the Hierophant using the Mary Greer system of birth cards. Beautiful. Dory, Son, I'm having a wonderful day and feel great. Lisa, are we going to see how the cards behave in other houses? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. And you are the High Priestess. Damn straight you are. Dave, the Fool, it's my journey I'm documenting. I'm Everyman, the Little Tramp, etc. Yes, indeed. Claire, High Priestess, because I enjoy solitude and spiritual inquiry. Gail, the Empress as nurturer. Shelley is the Moon. Karen is Temperance. Okay, so you've solidified which card is going to be you. And remember that you can interpret it in other ways. Shelley asks, what is a birth card? Birth card is denoted by birth number. You find it's your astral number or your life path number or your birth number. Those are all names for the same thing. You find that by adding up all the numerals in your birth date and keep adding together until you get a single number 1 through 9. Then you look at the corresponding Major Arcana card, and that's your birth card. So your Major Arcana birth card will be a card 1 through 9, Magician through Hermit, one of those cards. Christine, I feel Empress, but my birth date is Wheel of Fortune. What about Libra astrology card, which would be Justice? So whatever you're feeling for today is fine. Whatever feels right for you today. Joanne is using her birth card, which is the Emperor. All right. So now, let's just play with this for a minute, looking at the first house, the Fool, before we actually lay it out and get going. Lacoste, nice to see you. Strength, I'm also an 8th by birth. Right, so we've got the same birth number. Cynthia, I can also use the World card because it is my life path card number. Sure, whatever you like. Whatever you like. Okay, so my question is, for that first house, the House of the Fool, whatever card lands there, how might the Fool create a house? Might it ask, where are you in your life journey? Might it ask, how are you being the star of your own journey? Might it ask, how are you approaching your life in childlike wonder? What questions might this house denote? That's what I want you to think about. And then we go on to the magicians. The magician, how am I educating myself? How am I using my tools? How am I discovering my power? How am I discovering and using my abilities? Right? The high priestess. How am I using my intuition? How am I finding balance in my life? How am I jumping into my own subconscious? So for the Fool, Christine says it's a beginning. But what am I beginning right now? What am I beginning at this time? That also works. So understand that, with these cards, each card might ask a very specific question, and you might get a better idea of how you're going to interpret the house when you see the card that falls into it. Does that make sense? All right. So at this point, remembering that this is technically 4 rows, with the first row simply being just the Fool right in the middle, and then below it, 1 through 7, below that, 8 through 14, below that, 15 through 21, you can shuffle your major arcana. Anna says, for the Fool, where in your life do you feel completely vulnerable but free? Very good. And Cheryl's an 8. Hey, we got a card of, we got a group of 8s here today. Very nice. So as you're ready, to prepare yourself for a general reading, you really just need to be open to whatever the universe wants you to see. Whatever the universe needs to know. You need to come with your open and curious mind and breathe for a minute and shuffle just your major arcana and lay them out in the pattern that we have described and get them all laid out, and then we'll go further. So it's 1 card up on top and then 3 rows of 7 each is what you're doing. And I'm grateful for my little cards so that I can lay them all out right here. Okay. You can work with reversals if you like. I will, because I always do. Totally up to you. Christine says, in Lenormand, I see the cards as our phase in life at this time, and the houses, our journey, how life should be. And I think for this, just because, again, that difference between metaphor, tarot as allegory and metaphor, and Lenormand as literal, I think there's so much more we can do with the houses in tarot. It's so much deeper in a way. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it is only at this moment that we recognize that we have indeed separated out all of our major arcana cards, because if you can lay out all 22, you've got them all. Okay. So the first thing you might want to do is to look at that card that you denoted as your significator and figure out where that card is. What house is it in? And first, just look at that as you in that house. So I am in the house of the Tower. So what does that mean? that means that I am getting ready to go through a lot of changes. And that is absolutely true. A lot of that is COVID related. A lot of that is my own personal growth. A lot of that is my personal journey. I'm a Scorpio. Tomorrow is my birthday. And so, I'm in that space of what am I bringing with me for my next year? What am I letting go of? And so, Robin, who is Jake, so you are the Emperor. That's your birth number. Which house did you come up in? How do I know I'm in the house of the Tower? Because that's where it showed up. My final row is Fool in the house of the Devil. We're gonna have some fun with that. Maybe I'm getting drunk for my birthday. I don't know. And then in the Tower, I have Strength. And then in the Star, I have Lovers Reversed. Okay, so Dory, are you saying that you chose Temperance to be your significator today, and it came up in that house? That would be auspicious. And thank you for the happy birthday wishes. So if the card that you chose to be your significator shows up in its own house, how many people has that happened to? The card that you've chosen as a significator today shows up. Okay, JM, you laid your cards out at random in that table. Did you do that? You shuffled and laid them out in that pattern. That's where we're at. And then we're looking at where did your significator, which house did your significator fall into? So if you miss that step of shuffling and laying them out randomly in that pattern, then you want to do that. Right, no, don't do them in order unless you have a second deck that you're going to lay them out randomly. The order is simply to show you what the houses are. So shuffle and lay them out in that pattern. One card in the middle on top, that's the house of the Fool, and then 3 rows of 7. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so Gail has the Empress as herself in Strength. So when you think about yourself, Gail, being in the house of Strength, what does that tell you? Does that tell you that you right now need to conquer some aspect of yourself? Does it tell you that you need to be careful to nurture aspects of yourself in a way that keeps your gentle nature in control? And when we think about you as Empress there, when we think about you as Empress in Strength, I think that's interesting because there's a gentleness in both of those. And so for me, there is this whole question about how you nurture your gentleness in a way that also nurtures your strength. That's where I go with that. Okay, so Morgan, the Empress reversed in the house of the Hermit. So you're the Empress and you came up reversed. So right away, I would be asking, why am I reversed? Am I not nurturing my true self right now? Am I feeling somewhat diminished in some way? Am I not bringing my Empress self the way I need to? And then in the house of the Hermit, when we think about the Empress as nurturing others and being in the house of the Hermit, I'm like, I don't want to nurture you. Go away, go away. And are you feeling that way? Are you feeling that you need to maybe have boundaries or nurture yourself, or that you would nurture yourself with study, or that are you feeling that the people that you normally nurture, your family, are not present for you? Are you separated for some reason? Those are the questions I would be thinking about there. Okay, so Marion chose the Hermit to represent herself, and it's in the house of the world. So I think that's beautiful, Marion. That seems to say to me that, the world is there for you to shine your light on the world. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I also think it's interesting because the Hermit, if you chose the Hermit for yourself, there's a part of you that doesn't want to be out in the world, but you're gonna have to be, it seems. Okay, Anna, do we also use the meaning of the house card where the other card landed on it? Yeah, in a way, this is an exercise in card combining, in a way. Absolutely. Okay, so Shelley. Okay, so you chose your significator at random? Is that what you did? And it showed up in the house of the Fool. So I would first, because we had specifically said to cognitively choose your significator. But if you felt called to choose it randomly, that's fine. But the first thing I would want to ask is why? Why did the moon come up to represent you? And then having that in the first house of the Fool, that seems really auspicious. What does that say to you about your own journey towards solving mysteries, towards solving confusion? Both of those cards can talk about the Fool, and the Moon can talk about like your unique deviant path and how you figure things out, and how you sort of try to avoid confusion, shall we say, and your psychic journey. Okay, Karen, so Temperance, you're Temperance and you're in the house of Strength. So, when we think about you being in the house of Strength, and there was one other person here in the house of Strength too. And think about, what that is. How do you find your strength? How do you find your balance between your wild nature and that gentle thing that has to keep things under control? What is it that you must control? And if you are Temperance, really trying to find the right balance, and there's this balance and strength as well, the balance between the lion and the woman, that's a really interesting thing. Oh, so Gail, you are the Empress and you showed up in the third house of Empress? Well, that's really auspicious. When you show up in your own house, I think you really have to sit with this idea of, this is really who I am and what I'm doing and what does that mean? And so for JM, you're the Empress and you showed up in Emperor. So for me, like the Emperor is really about being more in the community. How do you show up as responsible and stable within your community? So how do you bring your energy of Empress as a nurturer to your community? And that's an interesting thing. Oh, Lisa is the high priestess in the hanged man's house. And man, wouldn't that be a great song? I'm the high priestess in the hanged man's house. Something, I don't know. It just feels good. I don't know. But that's so weird because the high priestess and the hanged man are both sort of in this stasis, if you will, and they're both going within. And they're both like passive in a way. They're both passive in a way. And so there's such an internal journey for you, Lisa. Are you feeling that right now? Are you feeling you're in a place of internal journey? Wow. Okay, and David, you are the Fool and you're in the house of the Moon. Man, oh man. So I would say some things to that. And obviously, Dave, thank you. Yes, it does. And I love John Prine too. Yes, I was so sorry at his loss. And again, thank you all for the birthday wishes. Birthday during COVID is such a weird thing, right? But I have a lot to celebrate, so I'm super grateful. Um, so as I look at these and I sort of go through and give you my opinion of these things, please do not let my opinion override yours. You can add my opinion to it if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, just toss it out the window. I'm just giving you thoughts about how I might play with it. You might be playing with it a whole different way. So you're in the House of Star. I actually like that better for you, Dave. Much better. Because for me, the star is all about healing. It's all about really finding yourself in that space of bathing in heaven's healing light. And I feel like there's so much of that, that it is time for you to do. Julianne, the Hierophant reversed in the lover's house. Oh my gosh, I would love to know what's going on in your relationship life right now. I would love to know. And we think about so if you're the Hierophant and you come up reversed, are you learning a new way of being yourself? Are you learning to get out of your own way in some ways? Are you learning to find new solutions to things? And then in the lover's house, are you questioning all the different ways that things can fit together and all the different things that can fit into your life? Are you looking at doing things in a new way? Are you expanding who you can be as a Hierophant? Are you expanding your own sense of authority in your own life? Okay, Betty, my card is the Star. It sure is. And it's in the Magician spot. Oh, how powerful is that? Just the idea that you can take this healing energy that is you and find all of the tools and all of the ability and all of the power to begin your journey with that. That is lovely. So, Karen, I got the Star in the house of the Magician. I have all the tools I need to make my dreams come true. I think you've got the hang of this. Yes. Hey, Karen, who is Circle of Stones Tarot, so nice to see you here. Yes, the Fool is on top in the middle. That's really the first row. And then 3 rows of 7. Yes, exactly. Oh, and now, okay, so Christine leads us to our next exploration. Christine says, I chose the Empress to represent myself, and the Hierophant is in the Empress house. So once you figure out, okay, so here's the order of the things. The first thing to do is to find the card that you have chosen as your significator and find out what house it is in. And think about that. What are you doing in that house? Then think about that card that represents you in that house and what does that say? And now find the house of the card that represents you. So for example, my significator is card 8. So I'm going to go to the 8th house, the house of strength, and see what's there. Absolutely. And what's there is the Wheel of Fortune reversed, which, makes so much sense. Again, very COVID related for me. We had our huge grand opening celebration in my beautiful new studio in February. We had Ciro Marchetti here to speak for our grand opening. It was fabulous. And then we had to shut down in March. Now, obviously, am I shut down? No, of course I'm not. I'm here with you. I'm working. I'm fine. But, what do they say? Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. And so for me, I just got to literally go with the flow that is not the flow that I prefer. I've canceled 3 tours. I have a conference coming up in January where it's going to be an annual conference, but the first edition of it, the first year will need to be all online. We're getting that together now. And so there's a lot going on that is different than I would have liked. But I have to really find what is true and good and beautiful in all of that, right? Now, Karen said I did not get one reversal. And, I would see that as I don't see reversals as negative at all. But I think when you don't have one reversal and 22 cards, there is something there that says, full steam ahead. You don't really need to think about the nuances. You just need to go forward. I love that. Okay. Okay, so think about that. Think about what's coming up in your house, in your birth house position. Betty has the Emperor in the stars position, which I think is really cool because I really feel like you're getting ready to present yourself more to the community. So I feel like there's that. The Hierophant is in the Empress place, and of course you're back in India where your mother is. Makes sense. And Joanna, so nice to see you here. I am the Chariot in the house of the Hierophant. So, I would look at that and think about how are you moving yourself forward in your work, in your education, in your positioning in the community. How are you moving yourself forward? How are you moving yourself forward in the power structure in which you function? So Karen got Death in the World position. So I think that's so interesting, in terms of how to change your own outcomes, how you can be responsible and responsive to your own outcomes. Melanie, my card Chariot came up in the Hermit, moving out of stagnation and isolation, 100%. 100%. I love this. Cynthia, could you repeat the order of the twas? I'm not sure what that means. Can you repeat your question? Okay, so TK, you're Hierophant, and that's you, in the house of the Empress. I think that's you being in India with your mother and you being there to nurture your loved ones as you also nurture yourself. Nitty gritty, the Tower in Tower. So okay. I'm assuming that you did not choose the Tower as your significator. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that brings us kind of to another thing that we can talk about here is when a card comes up in its own house, that is really powerful and you have to pay attention to it. And the Tower is a really, really powerful card, which can be devastating, but also incredibly enlightening. So Tower in Tower is really interesting. It makes me wonder if you are going through some internal or external. You did. Oh, so that makes it even more powerful. So you are the Tower and you show up in the Tower. Man, oh man, my friend. You want to tell us what's going on in your life. That is pretty intense. I feel like anything I could say about that would take away from the intensity because it's so intense and so powerful. I just feel like the opportunity here for you to harness the power of the universe for the next thing you're going to build is huge. Marion, my card for 2020 is the Hermit. It's very apt. Don't worry, I'll get on my dolphin. Yes, I know you will. Lucia, nice to see you. I chose Strength as my birth card, and Star fell on that house. So healing for you. I just see that as a great opportunity for healing. And Karen's doing a smart thing that I think everyone should do. Take a picture of this for your further study. There's so much here to play with. Okay. Okay, Christine has death reversed in the moon house. So I'm looking at that and thinking, in terms of your own personal intuitive exploration, in what way are you not getting out of your own way? That's what I would say, honestly. Okay. The high priestess is in its own house. Karen, that's so good. So good. I love it. So yes, Lisa, they are both water cards, Hangman and High Priestess. And Hangman is not really a bad thing. It's about how you find your enlightenment. And both the High Priestess and the Hanged Man can sort of speak to looking beneath or under things, or looking at things in a different way. There's a depth there. Okay, so Sarah, you're the High Priestess and you came up reversed. If your significator comes up reversed, really look at that. Are you not honoring those aspects of yourself? Is something going on in your life that is making you feel upside down? What can you do to be more you? Have you not been feeling like you recently? And in the Empress's house, there's something really sweet about the High Priestess in the Empress house, because it's just so feminine, that journey. Really, the High Priestess to Empress is the journey from virgin to mother, which is so interesting. Claire C., High Priestess reversed in the house of the star. So you're the High Priestess? You chose the High Priestess for yourself? Definitely at this point, if you're speaking about a card as your significator, make sure you say it's as your significator so that we know. So Shelley, I corrected my significator to my birth number 8, strength. Nice to be in the club with you. And then strength wound up in its own house. So good, so good, so good. I love that. Okay. Okay. Okay, so Robin, first row, third position from left would be Empress. And Karen of Circle of Stones Tarot, your house has the world in it. Oh, now see, that would be another great song title, right? My house has the world in it. Oh, or poetry. We could have so much fun with poetry doing this. Just the way we speak about this is just so, I don't know. Am I the only person who loves words that much? I don't know. So Dave, I would not necessarily see the Hermit reversed as immature. I would sort of see it as figuring out how you connect with others, And I think typically the way you connect with others is through your interests, through theater or through psychic work or through study. And so that's an interesting thing. Okay. Marion, you've got death in your significator house of the Hermit. I think that's awesome because of the transformation you are going through right now. Okay, Cynthia, so the world is your significator? And I thought the High Priestess was your significator. Now I'm confused. Okay, and so Joanne has Emperor in the house of the Emperor. So that's the next thing I want you to do, is look through and see if any card fell into its own house. And you may have to do that by just going through and naming them off. Okay, so card 1, Magician, is it the Magician? No. Card 2, High Priestess, is it the High Priestess? And go through and see if you have any card in its own house. Melanie, the Fool card is in, the Fool card placement, what do you mean? I don't understand your question. The Fool house is the very first house, right up here on its own some, but the Fool card will go wherever it goes at random. Lisa McCord, death in the house of the Wheel of Fortune. I love that. For Karen, the Fool and the Sun both fell in their own houses. So figure out who fell in its own house, if any, and what that means to you. So let's see. Magician, High Priestess, Empress, Emperor, Hierophant, Lovers, Chariot. No, nothing in the first row. Strength, Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, Hanged Man, Death, Temperance. I got Temperance in the house of Temperance. That makes me happy. I love that card. That's like my favorite card. Okay, so Devil, Tower, Star. I got the Moon in the house of the Moon too. That makes me really happy. Sun. Okay, so those are my two. Temperance in the house of Temperance and Moon in the house of the Moon. So that says so much. Like, you could write volumes on this, right? Like, that's your homework, is to write so many journal entries about what all of this could mean for you. Oh, so the Hanged Man is in your significator's house, JM. So that's interesting. What do you think about that? Do you feel like you are in some way being stalled, or that you need to take time out and look at things differently at all? Does the Fool remain at the top? This is from Shelley. At the top before you shuffle your cards? No, shuffle all your cards. I mean, all 22 of them. Lisa, your Fool is in the Devil's house. So's mine. We should get together and drink. No, not necessarily. I'm not trying to encourage bad behavior here, and it could mean so many different things, right? But it is interesting. My Fool is also in the Devil's house. And so, in a way, maybe we could be encouraged to indulgence. And maybe it's not alcohol. Maybe it's chocolate cake. Maybe it's buying a new tarot deck. I'm certainly not trying to encourage addictive behavior in anyone. But the Fool in the house of the Devil could be extremely dangerous, or it could invite you to some really interesting but careful exploration, right? West Star Tarot, I am the star in the house of death, man. Man, you bring that healing. Bring that healing. Okay, so Julianne, in response to the Hierophant reversed in Lover's house, from what I've seen in my life, I'm learning how to assert myself in a calm but firm way in my relationships. Yeah, that makes sense. And Lisa, your tower is in the house of the Tower. Okay, Karen Winkle, Justice is in my significator house, the Hermit. Not letting anyone else influence my sense of right and wrong. Certainly, certainly. Okay, so Cynthia, the Fool's on top. The 3 rows are how they, it's Magician through Chariot, Strength through Temperance, Devil through World. That's how the houses go, which is how they would fall naturally, right? And you don't have to, we're not reading them in that particular order at all, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Oh, and Shelley, you got Strength and Strength. That's perfect. So, Joanna, it's so good to see you here. Joanna C. I picked the Chariot as my birth card, and the Tower fell in that house. So, I think that's interesting. I wonder in what ways you are breaking free on your journey. I wonder in what ways you are changing your thinking about things in a way that opens you up to new enlightenment. Oh, and Christine, I think I'm resisting a change about my psychic journey. Sure. And High Priestess and Strength are both in Karen's Circle of Stones, Karen's in their own houses. So cool. Lacoste, I had to shuffle and do the spread again because I made a mistake, and my card still ended up in the same house. So good. So many good comments. This is really a lot of fun. Hey, La Morena, nice to see you. And some love for words. Very good. Very good. Okay. Julianne has judgment reversed in the judgment house. So that's interesting when a card shows up in its own house, but reversed. What would you do with that? Like it's there, it's strong, but what could you do in your life to sort of turn that right side up? Why do you have to pay attention to that? And for Dory, Chariot fell in its own house. Oh, that is so cool. I hope you feel so strong in your mastery, Dory. I hope you really feel that. West Star. I chose star as significator and it landed on death. And then I got the sun in the house of the star, and I am in the house of the star, and I'm a star strength for birth cards. Yeah, we have those same birth cards together. So good, so good. And Lacoste, the fool in the house of the fool. Very, 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 very good. So Veronica, you've been doing this for years. So interesting. So interesting. Oh, so this is another fun thing from Christine. Christine says, I have Wheel of Fortune in the Magician house and Magician in the Wheel of Fortune house. So that's sort of the next thing you want to look for is what would you even call that when they like pair up that way? How would you call that? Whatever it is, looking for these pairs, where they each fall in each other's house. So this goes back to that fool devil thing. The devil is in my fool's house, and the fool is in my devil house. And so I do see that as a real warning. I see that as a warning about overindulgence for myself. Be it with food, be it with, I'm really not that big a partier. I'll joke about it, but I'm not. But in anything, especially like using my birthday as an excuse. Chaining or transpositions. Okay, very good. Can you do this reading for someone else? Absolutely, yes. Veronica calls it interlocking. I love it. Yes, you could absolutely do this for someone else. What if you laid out all, Veronica calls it a majors on majors spread. Betty said, what if you laid out all the majors in order and used the rest of the deck for each house? You could. You could. I mean, this is an exploration. There are no rules here. We can do this any way we want. The only rules I'm setting out here are for the group, for this class, so we can all be on the same page. But there are no rules. This is just a fun exploration, right? Oh, you're welcome, Emily. This is a lot of fun, right? So let's see. I'm now looking through to see if I have any of these interlocking or chaining things. So death is in my magician house, and so then I find the magician, and the magician is not in death. Let's see. So interesting. So interesting. So What does the devil reversed mean? So for me, the devil reversed is about having conquered that shadow thing. It can be for the alcoholic who quits drinking. It can be for the heavy person who lost weight. It could be for the person who recognized their shadow self and moved on. Okay, now I want to talk about a couple of other things. Number one, going back to that significator, look at the cards that are touching it. What are the cards that are touching it, and how do those cards play in your life right now? And look at the cards in those houses that are touching it. That's an interesting thing to play with. Now, when we look at, okay, there's a couple of things that are traditional. It is traditional in tarot to read like a grid of cards, to read like a 3x3 grid of cards. And you may have, if you do that, you may have particular ways of seeing the outside corners as meaning something, or the middle card as meaning something, or the rows as indicating like what is beneath and what is above, or what is to the past or what is to the future. I wonder what you wanted me to repeat, JM. Oh, okay. I bet I know. If you go back to looking at your significator, now look at the cards that touch it. What's to the left of it? What's above it? What's below it? What's to the right of it? Okay, and Christine says you can also do chaining for houses. For example, Death House with the Hermit card and Hermit House with the Death card. Right, right. Now, in this particular grid, okay, here's a thing. Here's the thing. When I study and teach the Major Arcana, I see, La Morena, did you get this idea from Lenormand? Yes, it is morphing the Lenormand Grand Tableau for tarot. Yes, yes. Oh gosh, I have no idea what I said. I cannot be accountable for what I said. I do not remember. I'm sorry. So, I was talking about how tarot is sometimes read in a grid, right? It's read in a grid of 3x3, right? And so when we look at, if you read tarot in a grid, you might see the 4 outside corners as having a particular meaning, or the middle card as having a particular meaning, or the rows from bottom to top as having a meaning, or the rows from left to right as having a meaning. And I think the same thing is true when people read a Lenormand Grand Tableau. They see the rows in different ways. And you can do that here. Do the 4 outside cards mean something particular to you? Does the middle card mean something particular to you? But here's the thing. When I look at the Major Arcana, I study the Major Arcana 1 through 21, 1 through 21, in 3 groups of 7, and that's how these are laid out. I see Magician through Chariot as the journey of the material world. These are the lessons that we need to learn in order to live well on the planet. I see Strength through Temperance, 8 through 14, as the lessons of the emotional world. These are the lessons that we need to learn in order to be emotionally balanced. And I see 15 through 21, Devil through World, as the lessons that we need to learn for spiritual enlightenment. So that means that the devil and the tower are the gatekeepers of our journey towards spiritual enlightenment. So nitty gritty, in your tower in tower, be in the tower thing, you are all about spiritual enlightenment. So what if we look at those journeys and we superimpose those onto this grand tableau? So now, if you look at all of the cards that fell into your top row, what if you read those 7 cards as your journey in the material world, as your journey toward health, wealth, and just how you live your life, your home, who's around you, all of that? What if you look at those 7 cards and think about that, and just look at that group and how does that enlighten you? What does that tell you? What 7 cards fell in that first row? And what does that have to say to you about your well-being and your accumulation of wealth and your accumulation of what makes you happy in your day-to-day life? And for me, that's really interesting because one of them is the Chariot Reversed, which, again, COVID. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is definitely my reading about how my life is during COVID, right? Because it's different than it would have been otherwise. I am certainly putting fewer miles on my car. I have canceled trips, and yet I am moving forward and doing okay. So the first row, I would make it's more like body, mind, spirit. Yes, it would be like the earth element. Sure, you could do that. Yeah. So the first row's journey is the journey of the material world. Oh, Dave, Empress and High Priestess and High Priestess and Empress. I think that's really powerful about bringing things into being, Dave, about how you're getting ready to create something that's really going to come into being. So does anyone have anything interesting in that first row having to do with how you are working, how you are making money, how you are taking care of your health? As JM said, the earthy things. Absolutely correct. Anything interesting there? Now, the second row, so we're like body, mind, spirit. That's really what's going on here. So the second row is the journey into the emotional world, how you are handling your emotions. So the emotional stuff, Shelley, is really more that second row, strength through temperance. So that second row is really where we find our emotional well-being, our emotional health, and what's going on there. And that's why I really like temperance in my place of temperance, because it really means I am working to stay sane in these difficult times. West Star Tarot, my first lesson is Devil and the Magician. Oh my gosh. So Claire, death reversed in the position of the Emperor. So, maybe finding a different way in terms of how you do what? How you lead within your family, how you lead within your community. Oh, Morgan, the wheel within the wheel. What do you think about that? That's really interesting. I love that. Okay. So Claire C, I've got apostrophe S position. The Emperor's position. Death reversed in the Emperor's position. So the Emperor, of course, is about your stability. It's about your responsibility. It's about how you show up in your community. Death reversed there. The thing is, you have changed your life. You have changed what your responsibilities are. But I think it's hard for you to change your mindset about that. So for me, Claire, when I look at that, I think it's about finding a new mindset in what your new responsibilities are. That's what I'd say. Cynthia, the devil in the house of the high priestess. So that is so interesting. Do you feel in some way limited or held back in your spiritual exploration? Or if you are the high priestess in being yourself and how you be yourself, do you feel there is something that is holding you back? Oh, Dave, your second row is all reversed. Emotional turmoil. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, Karen, tower and devil in your first row, and you may have some very real things you have to confront around health, around the way you deal with health, and around money. So, Claire, you like that? That made sense? Okay, good. Oh, Dory, high priestess in the Hierophant. I love that. Are you a professional reader? If not, that would tell me that you probably should be, to be honest with you. Okay, so Morgan, your Wheel of Fortune and Wheel of Fortune going with the flow, sure, paying attention to the cycles of life, but also recognizing that now could be a very lucky time for you. I mean, we always say don't push your luck, but could be, could be. Okay, Julianne, your first row is all reversed. Reversals aren't bad. Getting in touch with your inner self, your needs, Mercury retrograde, time to reevaluate. But if we think about that first row, reevaluating, specifically perhaps in terms of how you take care of yourself, in terms of how you take care of yourself, in terms of how you take care of your money, how you make your money, all of that. All of that. La Morena, Empress is in Temperance, Temperance is in Wheel, and Wheel is in Empress. Cool. Lacoste, I have the Hierophant reversed in its own position on the top row. Does that mean I'm breaking a lot of rules? Because I have been lately. And the thing, yeah, absolutely. And the question is, are you building something new with that? How does that serve you? Okay, and Karen, your tower is in the Hierophant and the devil is in the Chariot. So with the devil in the Chariot, I would say look at ways to change things that you really can. You have the power to change things. Tower in Hierophant, I think that sometimes you get very fixed in your thinking with the Hierophant, and the tower is just trying to shake that loose. Change your thinking, change your circumstances. And Marion says, I got the Lovers in the Magician house, which I like because of the element of air. Absolutely. Veronica says, reversals confuse things with this spread in particular. It does add another layer, doesn't it? Interesting. Okay, Jam, Devil in the Star and Tower in the Moon on the third row. So Devil in the Star, in what way might you be resisting healing? Or in what way might you be addicted to something for your own satisfaction? And Tower in Moon, are you having a spiritual breakthrough? Luna Song, nice to see you. Glad you're here. Okay, so now, in that second row, we see our emotional well-being. In the third row, we see our journey towards spiritual enlightenment. What do you see there? What does this tell you about your journey towards spiritual enlightenment? Where are you at? And what are the components? And I love that I have the Fool in my journey of spiritual enlightenment, that we're always on. We're always on this. Oh, and Karen, well, thank you. But, you're the brilliant one setting that intention. There you are. So then, once you look at those rows, you can really go through, if you want, card by card, first house, second house, all the way through, and look at the card in each house and see what that has to say to you. So we've talked about my devil in the Fool house and how I have to be careful. Magician, I've got death in the Magician's house. Now, I did get a new computer, which is a great new tool. But learning how to use new tools, that's really happening again, especially in COVID. I have the Hanged Man reversed in the house of the High Priestess, learning how to bring my intuition out to the world even more and think new ways about it. In the Empress, I've got, see how I gave that 3 syllables, Empress. Yeah, that's not really how you say it, is it? In the Empress, I have the Chariot Reversed. And I think I really am missing sort of visiting the people that I care about. I think that really is a thing. But I also think I could probably do more to reach out to them. The Star Reversed in the position of the Emperor, no joke, I'm worried about the elections. I'm worried about where that's going to go and what's going to happen. High Priestess Reversed in the position of the Hierophant. That's a very interesting thing, thinking about, right now I am breaking a tradition by taking the spread of one tradition and reading it as another tradition. So interesting. So you can really go through card by card and play with it that way and tell a story. Are the houses renamed after we shuffle and place our own cards? No. That first, like your upper left will always be the house of the Magician. It always goes that way. Whatever card falls into that house. So we are coming to our last 10 minutes together. I am interested to know what questions you've had. I'm interested to know what has been revealed for you. What you have learned, will you add this to your tarot practice in some way? Will you do this for someone else? What do you think of this, and do you find value in this? Does it help you learn to do a more general reading? And has it given you any firm directives? Okay, so top row across, the material world. And you can think about that when you study the major arcana. Study Magician through Chariot as the cards that teach us the lessons of the material world. Study Strength through Temperance, which here is the second row, as the lessons of emotional balance. Row 3, study Devil through World as lessons of spiritual enlightenment. Claire, any info about the Lenormand decks? I don't understand the question. Oh, Morgan, you're going to bring this spread to your tarot group. Yay, have fun. Cynthia, you shuffle and you place it in this pattern with the first card in the Fool position right on top in the middle, the second card over in the top left hand, and then across 7, and then back across 7 and across 7 again. Anna, love this spread. It's a true powerhouse. Yeah. So this class really grew out of the power of this group. And so much of what we do, in fact, in one of our last meetups, there was a suggestion that we do a class on tarot magic. Lo and behold, when you check the schedule for next month, we will be doing a class on tarot magic and manifestation. Oh, Karen Winkle says, this is a great exercise for learning to better moosh the cards. Remember a few months ago, we talked about tarot mooshing, how we moosh the meanings of the cards together. And this helps that, absolutely. Would you ever bring the minor arcana into this spread? It's been suggested in this group. I probably wouldn't, but you sure could. You sure could. Dory says this spread has opened a new world to my tarot readings. Marion says, I think this spread asks as many questions as it answers. Well, that is the thing with a general spread. When you do a general reading, you may have to make a list of questions and then use small spreads or other techniques to answer those questions. Absolutely. Claire says, this is fascinating for self-reflection. Yes, absolutely. Shelley, I wish I knew how to make a layout showing the numeric names of the major arcana cards. You mean like this? Is that what you mean? I'm confused. Okay, Christine, class in Grand Tableau. I do not sell that, but it's someone on Etsy. I've dropped this link before, but I will drop it in the Global Tarot Circle group on Facebook. I'll drop the link so you can buy one yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you think about it, like if you know your major arcana, it's the major arcana. Bang, boom, boink, boink. Oh, geez, Dory, what's knighting? I don't know what knighting is. Knighting would also bring more to the reading, too. Go ahead, tell us. Melanie made a cloth. Okay, very good. Morgan says, cut a piece of fabric and use fabric markers. Very good. Marion. Oh, now see, I was thinking about this, Marion. Speaking of minors, could you use this technique for each suit individually? I was thinking about that. Here's what I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about putting the court up top and then 2 rows of 5 for each suit. If you do that, report back with the results. Let me know. Is it worthy of a class? What do you think? Karen, it's a great exercise to learn all of the positions. It's a great exercise to create a story from beginning to end. Yes. La Morena, I think tarot actually used to be read more like this, but they diverged later. Interesting how it's not considered traditional now, but it probably once was. I don't know. I don't know. So what was the first tarot book? It was Atella's book. Was this mentioned in Atella's book? I do not know. Extra points to anyone who does that homework. So, Shelley, you don't like the major arcana. Is that what you said? I'm confused. Oh, you don't know the major arcana. Right. This is meant to help you know the major arcana better. Betty used a second deck and laid all the majors down using another deck and placing the cards on top for the reading. That's a great thing. Great. That makes sense. La Grande Mouche from Dave. That's perfect. I love it. Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. You know, if I could make a prediction over the course of the rest of my life, do I think I would actually ever teach a Lenormand class? Probably not. Because there are so many people who are really good at it. And, you know, I'm happy to lead a workshop like this, adding tarot insights into things. But to actually teach a class in something that is not my forte, no, man, I'm going to leave that for you folks. Absolutely. Karen, I don't know what you mean. You got the Wheel of Fortune. We had you cognitively choose your significator in the beginning. So I'm not sure what you mean there. So we are in our final 5 minutes, and you could do something here about the passage of time. right? You could look at cards to the left as the past, cards to the right as the future, cards in the middle as where we are right now. You could do the same thing with rows. Oh, right, I have heard of that, Dory. From the card you're reading, your significator, 2 cards over and 1 card up or down to link the cards together. Yes, 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 I have heard that. But let's do this. What if, just for fun, okay, so the middle position, the very middle position, let's see, Strength, Hermit, Wheel of Fortune. The middle position is the position of justice for all of us. For all of us. What's in your very middle position? What is in your justice position? And isn't it interesting that the House of Justice, assuming we're all using a weight-based deck, if not, it would be the House of Strength. The House of Justice is in the very center. And if you think about that, the idea of justice being the centralizing force is a beautiful thing, right? So what falls in your House of Justice? What falls in the center of everything? I have Judgment Reversed. And that says to me that, part of my journey toward balance and my journey toward justice is to help others and myself put closure to the past. And that you can't always judge people based on the past. And I think it's very interesting that people find a correlation between justice and judgment, not just because they both start with the letter J, but because they are these very karmic cards, right? So I think that's very interesting. So Karen, TK, are you saying that justice is in your justice position? And Betty's thinking about using oracle cards on the house positions. So I think very interesting to see what is in justice. And that's what is in justice right now. Seriously, what is in the House of Justice? And Lacoste, High Priestess in the House of Justice. So much balance there. Karen got the same thing. So much need for balance and recognizing that you bring justice to the world with your own inner work. How beautiful. And Gail, devil in your justice position is really interesting. I wonder if you hang on a lot when things are unfair. I wonder if you hang on a lot to your own view of justice or to your own sense of needing like crime and punishment and that kind of thing. I wonder if you hang on. If you have justice and justice, then you really are a person who wants to bring balance and fairness to the world. Shelley, I would say with Star Reversed there, you have been treated very unfairly in the past and you have healing that you need to do in that regard. So those are some interesting things to consider. All right. For those of you who can't get enough, I am going to be very quickly in about 15 minutes hopping over to my Facebook business page, Christiana Gaudette, to do the Saturday Psychic Sampler. So I'll be shuffling all of these cards and doing some readings. So if you can't get enough, come see me there straight away. We are in our last minute. So now, to do this as a Zoom class, a 2-hour Zoom class. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. So Claire, in justice position, I have the Empress. Creativity and art connect with the divine. It's cycling and filling up ideas and emptying. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I want to thank you all so much for being here. If you would like to drop your contact information here, what's your YouTube channel that we can subscribe to? What's your Instagram? How can we find you? Let's stay connected with each other. I'm just getting the November class up, but our 5 meetings in November are already scheduled and are already in the Live Tarot Webinars playlist. So you can go in and mark your calendar, please, and join us. I'm looking forward to that. And I do have a Zoom class coming up on Tuesday. You can still get tickets. It is Tarot Beyond the Veil. We are using tarot in mediumship. I know some of you have already signed up for that. So if you'd like to sign up, please do. Thank you so much for being here. Well, Christine, man, you're the one who originally planted this bug in my head, so maybe it will happen. Maybe we'll do the Zoom. I'll have to think about how to structure that, but maybe we could. Folks, I want to thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I really appreciate you folks are part of what has made this year so incredibly special for me. And I thank you so much for being in this community. Really, really appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to Starcast. That's STAARCAST here on YouTube. That's our new podcast. And my episode with Benabel Wen just dropped, so you don't want to miss that. Make sure you go to the StarCon website, STAARCON. Make sure you go to the StarCon site page on Facebook. And remember, I am available for readings by phone, Skype, FaceTime, Messenger, Zoom, and I am also available for mentorship. Thank you all so much for being part of my channel here, for being part of my international tarot community. I love you all so much and really, really appreciate you. Now, join me in about 15 minutes on my Facebook business page. Take care.